Hi, everybody. Tom Van Hoy with this week's edition of the Pitt State Indoor Track and Field Insider Show with PSU men and women's head coach Russ Jewett. Some Pitt State athletes in Lincoln, Nebraska last weekend. A final tune-up before the MIAA Championships this weekend in Joplin at Missouri Southern. Begins on Friday there and runs through Sunday. So how did Pitt State athletes do in Nebraska? Here's Russ Jewett.
Well, you know, it is what it's called, the tune-up, and that's the weekend for us is kind of fine-tune, get ready for the conference championship. So everything we did, whether it was how we entered people or the fact that we didn't compete someone, you know, had to do with trying to get everybody ready for the conference championship. And it wasn't, you know, a magical weekend of competition for us by any stretch. But I was pleased to see Cassie Caswell throw almost 2 feet farther than she had in the shot put and put herself in position to maybe be on the bubble to get into the national championship. That was probably a highlight of the weekend for us. We had some other good performances, especially our second-tier athletes, the folks that are not really in scoring position in conference. We had, you know, a few folks that did a good job and kind of, you know, improved their stock, if you will. So, but it was sort of a relatively low-key weekend, and you know, we're just going to get ready for the conference championship.
Yeah, is it different, your preparation for the championships in terms of maybe you don't want to run somebody the week before, you don't want them to do an event, or what's your approach there, I guess?
Yeah, there are some events, and some coaches have a little different philosophy, and it might depend on the athlete and where their state of fitness is. But just for instance, like with Adam Volker, Jess Macy, our longer distance folks, I choose with these men and women to just not compete them the weekend before conference. Again, some coaches feel differently, but that's by design, so that we can kind of rest their legs specifically on the tight turns, and we still train pretty hard. But so it's just kind of an individual preference thing. We'd rather not overload our athletes the weekend before conference, kind of let their legs get under them a little bit, and sort of save it, if you will, for the conference championship. There's other athletes who might have missed training or missed some competitions early on that feel like you need a certain number of races or competitions to really get in peak form, and we might compete them more than we normally would on the weekend before conference. So it just depends on the athlete's situation.
Well, we talked about the approach to indoor track and field versus outdoor track and field and how important it is. But as you prepare for this, have your athletes done the work to try to peak for this indoor track and field championship?
Well, I think we've done mostly what we were capable of. There are always, you know, a few setbacks or a few shortcomings, I think, with any team in any season. But and we coaches always strive for perfection, and it's hard to, impossible to attain it, truly. But yeah, I mean, I think we probably could have done a better job of injury prevention in retrospect. And hindsight's always 20/20, and we're not big on looking in the rearview mirror, but anyway, I wish we were a little healthier, and those are things that we always look at after a season, and what can we do better in the future. We'll do that right around the corner, but I think our athletes have worked really hard in our situation and to be the best indoor team we can be, and I'm proud of their efforts so far.
Tom Van Hoy, along with Russ Jewett, Pitt State men and women's indoor track and field coach outdoor as well. How difficult has it been not to really have a place to train indoors this year?
Well, I think with our mindset, it hasn't been that difficult. It was harder than last year. Last year was a relatively mild winter. This year, not so much. But we really try to instill, and I think we did it successfully, the attitude that we're not going to have any excuses. We're going to take what we can get, train as hard as we can safely, and be the best indoor team we can be. And I feel like we've done that.
How do you feel about your women's team going into this weekend?
Well, we're not one of the contenders for a championship, and that's no surprise probably to our women's team. There's a team out of Jefferson City, Missouri that's the hands-down favorite at Lincoln University. The host, Missouri Southern, will have a pretty strong women's team, too. They'll be hard to beat for second, I think, anybody. And then there's Nebraska Kearney is a team that is stronger than they were last year. And also Central Missouri, obviously, they've won some indoor championships in recent years, and they're not as strong as they had been when they were doing that, but they're still right up in there. And we'll be in the battle with those kind of teams. It'll be hard for us to beat those teams based on what's happened so far. But all I can say is that this is a women's team with spirit, with some good leadership. And we'll compete hard at a conference championship and hope we're up in there in the top, 3 or 4.
Where do you think you'll get points?
Well, there's no place where we'll get a ton of points probably, but in the longer distances, we've got a couple of pretty good women in there that hopefully we can score double-digit points in the 3,000, the 5,000. Amy Grayson is going to be important to our cause. She's a sprinter who can get points in the sprint. She should get some points for us, good points in the long jump. Cassie Caswell's in 2 throws, and we're going to need her to come through. So, and then we've got a young vaulter or two that pole vault is an area where the best teams other than Lincoln anyway have some good vaulters. We've got a fifth-year senior in Casey Epps who's not ranked in the top 8 in the mile, but I feel like she's got good momentum, and hopefully she can be one of the middle distance runners that can kind of shine for us, maybe get some surprise points. So it's going to have to come from different places here and there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another freshman, Emmeline Dearman, who's been a pleasant surprise to us in the multi-events, the combined events. So for her, that's the pentathlon indoors, and that's an awfully tough event in this conference. But she's a great competitor and has proven that even as a freshman. So we'll be leaning on her a little bit for scoring as well.
Well, this will probably sound like a Jeopardy question, but can you name, well, you can, the events in the pentathlon?
Of the pentathlon?
Yes.
Sure. 60 meters, the 200, the long jump, the high jump, and the shot put. There's no indoor javelin.
Well, that's good,
Yeah, yes, it is good. It's safer that way.
Do you like that? I mean, you like the multi-event situation, the pentathlon and the heptathlon?
Well, sure. It's a great event. Now, it doesn't seem fair because you gotta do 5 events, and I think I misspoke. I think I said 60 meters at 60 hurdles for women, but you got to do 5 events, and you only get credit for 1 event to score points for the team. So there's the points you get for the pentathlon, total points, however fast you run, you get a certain amount of points, how far you jump, etc. But the points you get for your team's team score, 10 is the most you can score, even though you do 5 events. So, but it's a great event to show balanced athletic ability, and also I think it reflects your demeanor as an athlete when you can manage your emotions over 5 events. And of course, it's 7 for men, and in an outdoor it gets to be more. But I think that's an interesting event from that aspect too. What
are the differences between the heptathlon and the pentathlon?
Well, indoor versus outdoor.
And
outdoor, you have a 2-day event. Now you got 4 events on the first day and 2 on the second day, and then the javelin, obviously, is one of the events. The 800 meters is it's both indoor and outdoor. And anyways, it's just different because it's outdoor, I think, and you got a 2-day event.
Do you have someone there you think can compete for you?
Well, yeah. I think Emmeline Dearman will make a good transition to the heptathlon outdoors. I don't think there's any question about that. She'll just continue to get in better shape and more experience, and she's strong. So, we haven't seen her throw the javelin for distance yet. She's done some in training, but hopefully she can be a decent javelin thrower as well.
Does the order of events at the Indoor Track and Field Championships coming up this weekend in Joplin, Missouri Southern, does the order of event make any difference to you in terms of your athletes and which events they compete in?
Well, yeah, it does. And if, for instance, if you have someone that's a good sprinter, both a short and a long sprinter, you've got to decide whether you want them to be in a short and a long sprint, and which is first, and the short sprints are a little earlier in the meet, so that makes it easier to double back in a long sprint. If you had for instance, if you had a 400 meters before the 60 meters, it would be hard to do the 60, but the 60 is before the 400, not a lot before, but a little before, so it's easier to recover. So that does make a difference in how you enter your kids. Yeah.
How about on the men's side? How do you look?
Well, we are a contender there. I mentioned Nebraska Kearney's women's team being significantly better. Their men's team is quite a bit better as well. I thought they were a contender last year, but they're the favorite this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They've got a balanced team. They have really, looks like they've focused on this year. They redshirted a couple of good athletes last year. Don't know whether it was injury or just to kind of save it for this year, but they're a very good balanced team. They can score in almost every event. and more than a point or two in every event. And that's the way you win conference championships. So they're head and shoulders the favorite. But then, behind them would be the host Missouri Southern, and of course you compete at home, and especially a team like Missouri Southern with the passion they have, that'll be worth some points. We'll just compete at home, the comfort level and the inspiration they'll have. Central Missouri is a perennial conference indoor champion. They'll be right there, and I think we can give it a go. We'll have to have some things go our way. I don't know if Nebraska Kearney competes really, really well based on their abilities. It'll be hard for anybody to beat them, but we plan to be one of the teams that try and find a weakness, that's for sure.
Do you have any athletes that you think will contend for championships?
Well, I think a few. I think Adam Volkert comes to mind. He's ranked first in the 3,000 now. Hopefully he's not shot by the time he gets there. Everybody, runs more than one race. All these distance runners and middle distance runners do, but I think he'll be fine there. So we're going to count on him for multiple points. Hopefully he can win an event or two. And I think Marquise Cushon, who hasn't really lit up the indoor scene this year, he's a returning, second place at nationals last year outdoors. He's got potential, although he's got some formidable competition there in the triple jump. That long jump could be an interesting competition. Steven is a little dinged up right now, but I know he's a passionate competitor. Unfortunately, we've lost Keenan Souls to a knee injury for the season, and that kind of took the wind out of our sails momentarily. I think we're recovering from that. And Luke Wilson in the weight throw, another little injury situation there that he's overcome, and I think he's ready to go now. He has a chance to win the weight throw, I think. He's got the capability to do that.
Well, as we do wrap it up here with Russ Jewett, and kind of a big deal, wasn't it? The official groundbreaking ceremony of the new Indoor Event Center recently. Well,
it was a lot of fun, Tom. It's a lot of fun watching that work in progress out in the backyard, as we say. It makes you feel really good to know that folks care about the community's advancement. This is a multi-use facility. It'll primarily be an indoor track, competition and practice, but of course all of our sports will use it in some way, and the community will get to use it. So it's great to be a part of that kind of an effort, and it's a collaborative effort, and it'll just build stronger relationships among all those constituents that made this all come together. It's a cool deal.
Well, I was going to say, you've been around a long time, and it seems to me anyway, with the number of things that have gone on campus, and that just a lot of positive vibe and a lot of positive things coming out of Pittsburg State University right now and in the community of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no doubt about that, and you can physically see, the capital improvements that we're making here, the buildings we're building. That's like physical evidence, but there's a feeling too, with just relationship building and cooperation. It's really a cool deal. This Pittsburg State is super important to the region and the community, immediate community, and I think certainly vice versa. The community is very important to Pittsburg State, and it's just a great thing to be a part of. I'm really proud to be a Gorilla.
That's Pitt State men and women's indoor track and field head coach Russ Jewett on this edition of the Indoor Track and Field Insider Show. The MIAA Indoor Championships are this weekend, as you know, in Joplin at Missouri Southern, before the Division II Indoor National Championships in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, starting March 14. Remember, Pitt State to host those national championships in 2016 and again in 2018. In the new Indoor Event Center, which is currently under construction on the campus right now. I'm Tom Van Hoy.